My name is Sarah Mitchell, and I'm about to tell you a story that will make you question everything you think you know about trust, about love, about the person sleeping next to you every single night. I used to believe that love was about blind faith, that when you marry someone, you give them your heart completely, no questions asked. I lived in Chicago with what I thought was the perfect life, a beautiful home, a thriving graphic design business that I built from scratch, and a 2-year-old son who was the light of my world. And then there was Ryan Mitchell, my husband of 6 years. 33 years old, a financial analyst with those deep brown eyes that first made me fall in love with him in college. He was everything I thought I wanted. Stable, reliable, and completely obsessed with sports, or so I thought. I thought he was chasing a ball on those Tuesday and Thursday nights, but he was actually chasing another woman. Welcome to Revenge Cat. We reveal gripping stories of broken trust, family secrets, and shocking twists. If you crave powerful narratives, intense emotions, and the sweet taste of justice, this is your place. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a thing. Let me paint you a picture of what I thought was my perfect life. Every Tuesday and Thursday, like clockwork, Ryan would kiss my forehead at exactly 6:30 p.m. and say, "Babe, I'm off to soccer practice. Don't wait up. You know how coach gets when we run late." I would smile, wrap my arms around his neck, and tell him to have fun. Sometimes I'd even pack him a little snack, energy bars, a bottle of Gatorade, maybe some of those protein cookies he loved. I was the supportive wife, the one who encouraged his hobbies, who understood that men need their space, their time with the boys. God, I was such an idiot. But back then, I admired how dedicated he was. 6 years of marriage, and he never missed practice. Rain or shine, snow or heat wave, Ryan was out there with his team. The Chicago Wolves, a recreational league for 30-something guys who refused to admit their glory days were behind them. I even went to some of their games on weekends. I'd sit on those uncomfortable bleachers, bouncing our 2-year-old son Marcus on my lap, cheering when Ryan scored, groaning when he missed an easy shot. The other wives were there too. Jennifer, whose husband Mike played defense, and Lisa, married to the goalie. Tom. We'd chat about our lives, our kids, our husbands' endless sports obsession. Boys will be boys. Jennifer would laugh when Mike came home with muddy cleats and grass stains on his shorts. We all agreed. We were the understanding wives, the patient women who knew that sports were just part of who our men were. But here's the thing about perfect facades. They only look perfect from the outside. It started with small things. Things so subtle that I almost missed them entirely. The first red flag should have been his uniform. I remember it clearly. It was a Thursday in early March. Chicago was still freezing, one of those brutal late winter nights where the wind cuts through you like ice. Ryan came home from practice around 10 p.m., and I was in the kitchen, cleaning up after dinner. "How was practice, honey?" I called out, not even looking up from loading the dishwasher. "Great," he said, but something in his voice sounded, off. Tired, but not the kind of tired you get from running around a field for 2 hours. That's when I saw his gym bag sitting by the door, and I noticed something strange. His practice uniform, the red jersey with Mitchell printed across the back, was folded perfectly at the top of the bag. Not balled up and thrown in like usual. Not soaked with sweat or stained with grass. It was pristine, like it had never been worn. I walked over and touched the fabric. It was completely dry, not even a hint of dampness from sweat, or that distinct outdoor smell that usually clung to his clothes after practice. "Ryan," I called out, but he was already in the shower. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe they did drills inside that night because of the weather. Maybe he changed out of his practice clothes before coming home. There had to be a logical explanation. There always is, isn't there? A logical explanation for the things that don't quite add up. That's how we protect ourselves from seeing what's right in front of us. The second red flag came 2 weeks later. Ryan's soccer cleats were sitting by our front door, exactly where he always left them after practice. But when I went to move them to the closet, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The soles were completely clean. Not a speck of dirt, not a blade of grass, nothing. They looked like they'd never touched a soccer field in their lives. I picked them up, turned them over, examined them under the hallway light. The treads were perfect, unmarked. These weren't the cleats of someone who'd just spent 2 hours running around on a field. My hands started shaking. I set the cleats down carefully and walked to the kitchen, my mind racing. I opened my laptop and pulled up the weather report for that night. It had been clear and dry. Perfect conditions for outdoor practice. The field at Lincoln Park, where Ryan's team played, was artificial turf. But even artificial turf leaves some kind of mark on cleats. That night, I lay in bed next to Ryan, listening to him breathe, watching the rise and fall of his chest in the dim light from the street lamp outside our window. He looked so peaceful, so innocent. And I realized I was staring at a stranger. The third red flag hit me like a slap in the face. It was a Tuesday night in late March. Ryan had been at practice for about 3 hours when I decided to do laundry. I was going through his gym bag, pulling out his dirty workout clothes, when I caught a whiff of something that definitely didn't belong. Perfume. Not my perfume. I wore a light vanilla scent that Ryan had bought me for our anniversary. This was something floral, heavy, expensive. The kind of perfume that lingers on your skin, that transfers to everything you touch. I held his practice shirt up to the light, and there it was. A small stain on the collar. Not sweat. Not dirt. It was makeup, foundation, to be exact, in a shade about 3 shades darker than my pale Irish skin. My legs gave out. I literally collapsed onto our bedroom floor, clutching that shirt, feeling like I was going to be sick. 6 years of marriage. 6 years of trust, of believing in this man, of building a life together. And he was coming home to me smelling like another woman. But I still didn't confront him. Not yet. You want to know why? Because confronting him would make it real. As long as I kept quiet, as long as I didn't say the words out loud, there was still a chance I was wrong. There was still a chance that my loving husband, the father of my child, wasn't betraying everything we'd built together. So I started watching. Really watching. I noticed how he guarded his phone, how he'd flip it face down whenever I walked into the room. I noticed how he'd shower immediately when he came home from practice, even on cold nights when he supposedly hadn't been sweating. I noticed how he'd started working late more often. How those Tuesday and Thursday practices sometimes became Monday practices too, or Saturday morning training sessions. I noticed how he'd stopped looking me in the eyes when he lied to me, and then came the night that changed everything. It was a Thursday in early April, one of those perfect spring nights in Chicago, when the air smells like possibility and the city feels alive again after months of winter. Ryan had left for practice at his usual time, giving me his usual kiss on the forehead, his usual "don't wait up, babe." I was in the living room, working on a design project for a local coffee shop, when I heard his phone buzzing on the kitchen counter. He'd forgotten it. In 6 years together, Ryan had never forgotten his phone. This man was attached to that device like it was a part of his body. He checked it constantly, responded to work emails at all hours, scrolled through sports news during breakfast. And now it was sitting there, buzzing insistently, while he was supposedly at soccer practice. I stared at it for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. The rational part of my brain was screaming at me to ignore it, to respect his privacy, to trust my husband, but the other part, the part that had been collecting red flags for weeks, that part was louder. I picked up the phone. The screen lit up with a text message from someone named Alex. Work. But it wasn't a work message. Can't wait for our next game tomorrow night. I've been thinking about you all day. Same place as usual. My hands went numb. The phone slipped from my fingers and clattered onto the kitchen counter. Game, not practice. Not meeting. Game. And the next message made my blood turn to ice. I know you have to keep this between us. But I'm falling for you, Ryan. This is so much more than just physical for me now. I read that message 5 times, 10 times, until the words were burned into my brain, until I could recite them in my sleep. My husband, the man I'd trusted completely, the man I'd given the best years of my life to, the man who was supposed to protect my heart, was having an affair. And I was reading about it on his forgotten phone, while he was probably with her right now. I screenshotted everything. Every message in that conversation, every late night goodnight beautiful, every wish I could wake up next to you, every lie wrapped in digital words that proved my marriage was a sham. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely operate the camera, but I documented everything. Dates, times, messages going back months, evidence of a relationship that had been building while I was at home, trusting, waiting, being the perfect wife. When Ryan came home that night, I was in bed, pretending to sleep. He slipped in quietly, probably thinking he was being considerate, not wanting to wake me. He kissed my forehead, the same forehead he de-kissed before leaving to cheat on me, and whispered, "I love you." I lay there in the dark, listening to him brush his teeth, listening to him get ready for bed, listening to him lie down beside me and fall asleep. And I planned. I became someone I didn't recognize. A detective. A spy in my own marriage. Over the next 2 weeks, I pieced together the truth with a methodical precision that surprised even me. I went through old credit card statements and found charges at restaurants I'd never been to, hotels in neighborhoods across town, flowers that had never made it home to me. I tracked his location through the family GPS app on his phone, an app he'd insisted we install for safety after Marcus was born. Ironic, considering it would be the thing that exposed his lies. Those Tuesday and Thursday practices. He was going to a boutique hotel in Lincoln Park. The same hotel. Every week. For months, I called the Chicago Wolves Recreational League, pretending to be organizing a surprise party for Ryan. The woman who answered was confused. "I'm sorry," she said, "but we don't have anyone named Ryan Mitchell on our roster." "Are you sure you have the right team?" 6 years. He'd been lying to me for 6 years about even being on a soccer team. I started following him. I know how that sounds. I know it sounds crazy, desperate, pathetic. But you have to understand. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I needed absolute proof before I blew up the life I'd spent years building. So on a Thursday night, in late April, I hired a babysitter for Marcus, told her I was meeting girlfriends for dinner, and followed my husband to his soccer practice. I stayed 3 cars behind him, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I watched him drive past the park where he'd claimed to play soccer for years. Watched him turn into the parking lot of that same boutique hotel I'd found on his GPS. And then I saw her. She was beautiful. That was the first thing I noticed, and I hated myself for noticing it. She was probably 25, with long dark hair and legs that went on forever. She was wearing a red dress that hugged every curve, and when Ryan got out of his car and walked toward her, she lit up like he was the sun itself. They kissed in that parking lot. Not a friendly peck, not a casual greeting. They kissed like lovers, like people who couldn't get enough of each other, like people who were completely, hopelessly in love. And I sat in my car, watching my husband fall in love with someone who wasn't me, feeling my heart shatter into pieces so small, I was unsure they could ever be put back together. But then something interesting happened. The hurt started to transform into something else. Something harder. Something colder. Anger. I didn't confront Ryan that night. Or the next night. Or even the next week. Instead, I did something that would have shocked the old Sarah, the naive Sarah who believed in fairness and honesty, and playing by the rules. I got smart. I consulted a divorce attorney without telling Ryan. I opened my own bank account and started quietly moving money into it. I documented everything. Every lie. Every fake practice. Every hotel charge. Every text message. I was building a case. Not just for my lawyer, but for my own peace of mind. I needed to know exactly how long this had been going on, exactly how much of our marriage had been real. The answer was devastating and liberating at the same time. Almost none of it had been real, at least not for the last 3 years. I found evidence going back that far. Hotel receipts, restaurant charges, even a jewelry store purchase from last Valentine's Day. A necklace I'd never received, that had obviously gone to her. While I was home with our baby, exhausted and overwhelmed and grateful for his understanding about needing time with his soccer team, he was building an entire second life with another woman. But here's what Ryan didn't know about me. I might have been naive, but I wasn't weak. And when you wake up a sleeping lioness, you better be prepared for what comes next. I chose my moment carefully. It was a Saturday morning in early May. Marcus was at my sister's house for the weekend. A sleepover idea arranged specifically for this conversation. Ryan was in the kitchen, making coffee, humming some song under his breath. He seemed happy, relaxed. He had no idea his world was about to end. "Ryan," I said, walking into the kitchen with a manila folder in my hands. "We need to talk." He looked up, and for just a second, I saw a flash of something in his eyes. Fear. Guilt. It was gone so quickly I almost missed it. "Sure, babe," he said, turning back to his coffee. "What's up?" I set the folder down on the kitchen counter, right next to his mug. "Open it, Sarah." "What open?" "It." His hands were shaking as he lifted the cover of the folder. Inside were printed screenshots of every text message, every credit card statement, every hotel receipt. Photos I'd taken of him with her in that parking lot. GPS location data showing his real whereabouts during all those fake soccer practices. I watched his face go white. Watched his coffee mug slip from his fingers and shatter on the kitchen floor. "So," I said, my voice surprisingly calm, "how long have you been playing this game?" He tried to lie at first. Of course he did. "Sarah, I can explain." "Can you explain why you've been lying to me for 3 years? Can you explain why you've been spending our money on hotel rooms with another woman while I've been home raising your child?" "It's not what you think. It's not what I think. Ryan, I have pictures of you kissing her. I have text messages where she calls you baby and talks about falling in love with you. What exactly do you think I think?" That's when he broke down. He told me everything. How he'd met Alex at a work conference 3 years ago. How it started as just flirtation, then became an emotional affair, then became physical. How he'd invented the soccer team as a cover story because he knew I'd never question his love of sports. How he'd been living a double life, telling her he was going to leave me, telling me he loved me, telling himself he could somehow make both relationships work. Do you know what the worst part is, Ryan? It's not even that you cheated. It's that you turned me into a fool. You made me complicit in my own humiliation by making me trust you, making me defend you to my friends when they joked about cheating husbands, making me feel guilty for even having a suspicion. He was crying by then, actually sobbing, begging me to forgive him, promising he'd end it with Alex, swearing he loved only me. But I was done. I was so completely, utterly done. "Ryan," I said, and my voice was steady as steel, "I already filed for divorce." The look on his face was almost worth the 3 years of lies. Almost. He begged. He pleaded. He promised to go to counseling, to cut off all contact with Alex, to do whatever it took to save our marriage. But here's what Ryan never understood. You couldn't save something that was never real in the first place. The divorce process was brutal, but I was prepared. My attorney was impressed with the documentation I'd gathered. All those screenshots, all those receipts, all that evidence of his deception painted a very clear picture for the court. Ryan fought me on everything at first. Custody, the house, our savings. But his lawyer quickly explained to him that adultery doesn't look good to family court judges, especially when the cheating spouse has been using marital funds to finance the affair. I got the house. I got primary custody of Marcus. I got half of everything we'd built together, plus alimony to help me rebuild my life. But more than that, I got something Ryan couldn't take away from me. My self-respect. Alex, by the way, didn't stick around once the divorce became public. Turns out she wasn't as interested in Ryan when he came with child support payments and alimony obligations. Funny how that works. Ryan moved into a one-bedroom apartment across town. He gets Marcus every other weekend and one night during the week. Those nights are hard. The house feels too quiet without my son's laughter. But they also liberating. For the first time in years, I don't have to wonder where my partner is. I don't have to decode lies or make excuses for suspicious behavior. I don't have to live in fear of the truth. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I was sitting in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd confronted Ryan, where my marriage had officially ended, working on a design project for a new client. It was a Tuesday night, 7:30, to be exact. The exact time Ryan used to leave for his fake soccer practices. I realized I was happy. Not the kind of forced happiness you fake until you make it, but genuine, deep in your bones contentment. My design business had grown exponentially. Word had gotten around about my work, and I was booking clients months in advance. I'd moved into commercial design, creating brand identities for startups and established businesses. I was making more money than I ever had, and I was passionate about every project. Marcus was thriving too. At 3 years old, he was funny and bright and completely unaware that his world had been turned upside down. Kids are resilient in ways that never cease to amaze me, but the biggest change was in me. I looked in the mirror one morning and barely recognized the woman staring back. She had the same green eyes, the same red hair, the same freckles across her nose. But there was something different about her. Something stronger, more confident. She looked like a woman who knew her worth. People ask me sometimes if I regret how I handled things. If I wish I'd tried to save my marriage. If I think I gave up too easily. The answer is no. Absolutely not. Here's what I learned from this whole nightmare. Trust isn't something you give blindly. It's something that's earned, maintained, and protected. When someone breaks that trust, really breaks it, not just cracks it but shatters it completely, you couldn't just glue the pieces back together and pretend it's whole again. I learned that I deserve better than a man who looks me in the eye and lies to me. I deserve better than someone who uses my love as a cover for his betrayal. I deserve better than a relationship built on deception. Most importantly, I learned that I am strong enough to walk away from something that looks perfect on the outside, but is rotten at its core. Ryan's game wasn't soccer. His game was manipulation, deception, and emotional abuse disguised as a loving marriage. He played me like a chess piece, moving me around to suit his needs, while I remained blissfully unaware of the rules. But I learned how to play too, and I won. Last month, I ran into Jennifer at the grocery store. You remember Jennifer, Mike's wife, one of the soccer team wives I used to sit with at games that never existed. She looked uncomfortable when she saw me, like she wasn't sure what to say. The divorce had been messy and public, and I'm sure the other wives had plenty to say about it. "Sarah," she said awkwardly, "how are you doing?" I'm great, I told her, and I meant it. Really great. She nodded, but I could see the pity in her eyes. The poor Sarah, divorced and alone look that I'd gotten used to over the past year. But here's what Jennifer couldn't see. I wasn't poor Sarah anymore. I was Sarah who'd rebuilt her life from the ground up. Sarah who'd turned her pain into power, her betrayal into business success, her broken marriage into a better life. I was Sarah who learned to play the game better than the man who tried to play her. 3 weeks ago, I went on my first date since the divorce. His name is David, and he's a teacher at Marcus's preschool. He's kind, honest, and when he says he's going somewhere, that's actually where he goes. Novel concept, right? I'm not ready for anything serious yet. I may not be for a long time, but I'm open to possibilities again. To the idea that there might be someone out there who understands that love is built on truth, not lies. Someone who knows that trust isn't a game, it's a foundation. You know what the funny thing is? Ryan was right about one thing. Life is a game. But he was playing the wrong game entirely. He thought he was playing a game where the goal was to have everything. A stable wife at home, an exciting mistress on the side, a child who adored him, financial security, social respectability, a game where he could win it all by being clever enough to keep all the pieces in motion. But that's not how life works. That's not how love works. That's not how family works. The real game, the only game worth playing, is the one where you build something genuine with someone who chooses to build it with you. Where trust isn't a weakness to be exploited, but a strength to be cherished. Where love isn't a resource to be divided, but a force that grows stronger when it's nurtured honestly. Ryan lost that game the moment he decided to cheat. Not just because he got caught, but because he never understood what the real prize was supposed to be. The real prize was me. Was us. Was the family we could have built together if he'd been brave enough to be honest, strong enough to be faithful, man enough to appreciate what he already had. Instead, he chose to play a game with rules that guaranteed everyone would lose. And lose we did. Our marriage, our family, our trust, our future together. But I learned something from losing that game. Sometimes the only way to win is to stop playing by someone else's rules and start making your own. My rules are simple now. Rule number 1. I will never again ignore red flags. Because I want to believe the best in someone. Rule number 2. I will never again make myself smaller to accommodate someone else's lies. Rule number 3. I will never again accept boys will be boys as an excuse for disrespect, dishonesty, or betrayal. Rule number 4. I will teach my son that real men don't need to lie to the women they love. They don't need fake soccer teams and elaborate cover stories. They don't need to cheat to feel alive. Real men show up. They tell the truth. They honor their commitments. They build rather than destroy. And rule number 5. I will never again confuse love with naivety, trust with blindness, or loyalty with stupidity. Love without respect is just manipulation. Trust without honesty is just illusion. And loyalty without reciprocation is just self-destruction. So what's the final score in this game that Ryan thought he was so clever at playing? Ryan lost his wife, his home, his son's daily presence, his reputation, and his girlfriend. He's living in a cramped apartment, paying alimony and child support, seeing his son for days a month, and dating apps at 33. I gained my freedom, my self-respect, my business success, and my son's admiration. I'm living in the home I love, building the career I'm passionate about, raising a child who will grow up knowing what real strength looks like. I'd say I won that game pretty decisively. But here's the real truth. This was never a game I should have had to play. This was my life. My marriage, my family, my future. Ryan turned it into a game when he decided that his pleasure was more important than my pain. That his secrets were more valuable than my trust. That his lies were more comfortable than my truth. And that's the part that still makes me angry sometimes. Not that he cheated. People cheat for all kinds of reasons, and none of them justify it. But I can understand human weakness, human temptation, human failure. What I can't understand, what I'll never be able to forgive, is how he looked me in the eye every single day and let me believe we were building something real together. How he let me invest my heart, my time, my dreams in a relationship that was already broken. How he stole years from my life that I can never get back. To the woman who might be living my story, if you're watching this and something feels familiar. If there are red flags you've been ignoring, inconsistencies you've been explaining away, gut feelings you've been dismissing, please listen to that voice inside you that's telling you something isn't right. You're not paranoid, you're not crazy, you're not imagining things. Trust is supposed to be earned, not demanded. Respect is supposed to be shown, not assumed. Love is supposed to be demonstrated through actions, not just words. If the man in your life is asking you to trust him while giving you reasons not to, if he's demanding your loyalty while withholding his own, if he's claiming to love you while treating you with disrespect, you deserve better. You deserve a love that doesn't require you to turn off your brain, ignore your instincts, or make excuses for someone else's behavior. You deserve a partner who comes home to you, not because he has to, but because there's nowhere else he'd rather be. You deserve honesty. You deserve fidelity. You deserve to sleep peacefully at night, knowing that the person next to you chose you, every single day, over every other option in the world. And if you're not getting that, if you're getting elaborate stories about soccer teams that don't exist and practices that never happened, it's time to stop playing their game and start playing your own. My game now these days, my game has different rules entirely. I wake up every morning in a house that's truly mine, not held together by lies and false promises. I work on projects that excite me, with clients who respect my talent and pay me what I'm worth. I raise my son with honesty, showing him what it looks like when a woman values herself. I don't have to decode text messages or analyze inconsistencies in stories. I don't have to make excuses for anyone's behavior or explain away red flags. I don't have to wonder where someone is or who they with or whether they retelling me the truth. My life is mine again. My choices are mine. My future is mine. And you know what? It's a beautiful game when you get to write your own rules. I thought Ryan was playing soccer all those years. Turns out, he was playing with my heart, my trust, my life, but I learned something that he never understood. The best game isn't the one where you trick someone into losing. It's the one where everyone who deserves to win actually gets to. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 30 years old. I live in Chicago, and I'm not a victim anymore. I'm a winner. And this is my victory story. For more exciting videos, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and share. If you want powerful narratives, strong emotions, and the sweet taste of justice, this is your place.